nostalgia, right? Like, this whole time was the most fun, right? It was good times. But it was really fun to go through boxes and boxes of stuff in my basement and scan it in and think about some of the awesome stuff that we did. There would be no Caulfield without Sideshow. We worked so hard, and if anyone was interested in Caulfield Records, it was because of Sideshow, full stop. So that's important note. Caulfield was kind of an accident, right? There was no master plan, no strategy. It was just, hey, Sideshow needs to put out a record. Let's put out a record. Or Germbox, our friends from Kansas City, they need distribution for their 7-inch. Let's stamp Caulfield on it and put it out there. And over the course of 15 years, we got to do a lot of stuff that I'm proud of, and got to work with some of my best friends putting out my favorite music. So before getting into all of this, I think the important thing is where this spun out of. My neighbor had a skateboard ramp. And in the 80s, skateboarding, punk rock, there's two great tastes that go great together. So I was a little skate rat, hanging out with Bill Jones, bothering him. And at the same time, there was an amazing punk community happening that you guys are all aware of. And so I was this little 12-year-old kid absorbing all of that stuff. And one day, it was Al Wilson from Baby Hotline. He was at the skate ramp, and he was putting together this flyer for a show for JFA, and it was July 7th. And I said, oh, hey, that's my birthday. And he said, awesome, we'll make it Bernie's big birthday bash. So, I had one of the best birthdays ever. I had cake. Wow. Skateboard cake. And then I went to the punk show. This is outside the Brickyard. A lot of you have seen this, but the JFA had a bus, and everybody piled up, had like a class picture here. And it was awesome. Here's me in the pit. I remember my mom, she showed up, it was probably 10 p.m. or whatever, and she's like, okay, Bernie, time to go. And I remember running back to the back of the Brickyard, and I was like, hey Mom, just one more stage dive, and then we can go. Life changed, totally. Less than a year after that, I was fully assimilated, indoctrinated, adopted by Lincoln punk rock. So this is me and my band, the Trendy Catholics. We were all at Pius, so we thought it was funny. And what was amazing about this time was the support and encouragement that a bunch of 14 and 15-year-olds had to pick up a guitar and play music and do it. Like, we sucked. We were terrible. But Bill was like, yeah, get on stage, let's do it. So I think this was our first show, Detroit's second show, DRI. Like, it was important to get on stage and then get better after that, which is always kind of stuff. Right? But literally, I've really taken that to heart all my life. Because I just like, try it. This environment was amazing. This punk rock petri dish of the Brickyard, as many of you remember, this is just industrial brick building. What could possibly go wrong? So it was just far enough away from people, homes and businesses, so that people didn't complain. But it's hilarious. It was right across the street from the UNL police station, so people wouldn't get too out of hand. Maybe that's why it lasted for a couple years. But some pictures I stole off of Facebook. All brick, all terrible sound, tons of energy. It was great. So out of this whole thing spun up Peer Puppet, which is a band that I started with Paul and Rich, and we had a singer named Ron. I forget how it all spun up, but I think, yeah, we're big fans of Milk. I think we knew that Paul had a drum kit but wasn't in a band, so it was like, okay, Paul, let's do this. All praise for Christy Tisdale, or Hargesheimer, for letting us practice in her basement like every day. She was brilliant. And we would play wherever, the Lincoln High lunchroom, or this is us on a trip to Lawrence. Weird parties. This is brilliant. The blood all over Paul's snare. It's really good. This is our practice rig. And then, right, it was playing shows wherever. I guess we were super politically involved, but really anti-Gaddafi at the time. And then, like, playing weird, like, little bows. But, again, like, shows were all ages, and it was good. The Peer Puppet was just full-out paddle thrash, and it was fun. Meanwhile, across town, the 13 Nightmares were playing, and they were all hair and sweat and volume and awesome, and it inspired me. I don't know if they were the reason why Peer Puppet sort of evolved maybe into more of a melodic, less like paddle thrash hardcore thing, but they did. That was good stuff. So Peer Puppet, nobody would put out our records. We recorded 4 songs, and I conned my mom into writing, co-signing a loan so that I could put out a record, because no one else would. What happened was we actually recorded it as Peer Puppet, then changed our name, and then marked it out. I remember hanging out with Rich and Paul one day, and we got Sharpies and marked this out, had a stamp, sideshow. So that's, it was all in the moment. It was just like, got a mission, like, let's do it. Got the record, sold it in local stores. John Nanos from Pickles helped get a distribution. But this was a really important thing because he was the buyer at the local record store. And he would work with the distributors that he bought records from. He's like, hey, pick up 25 or 50 sideshow singles and sell them and get them out there. And it worked. We got good reviews in some of the punk zines of the day, and sold 400 records. And then I moved to California, and Paul moved to Minnesota, and we broke up, and that was the end. Until we all came back to Lincoln and spun up Sideshow again, because it was the right thing to do. We recorded an 8-song 12-inch in 1990, 91. That came out, again, kind of leaned on John Nanos, got distribution out there. It was important to get lots of press to build a press kit, right? So that you could send it to clubs and they book you. Anyways, you can imagine how excited I was when I learned that the Option magazine reviewed our record. And at the time, there weren't very many national glossy music magazines. This was the Music Alternatives, right? And Morrissey, like, yeah. So, exactly. And so you can imagine me flipping to the back of the record reviews and coming across this. Bands like Lincoln Nebraska's Sideshow are a penny a ton. I know for a fact that for every Fugazi, there are 50 Sideshows. What the fuck? What did John Dugan get out of that? I don't know, but it really didn't matter. So we booked shows and charged forward. So at the time, this is the interesting thing, the pre-internet era, there's no Yelp, there's no the way you booked shows was you picked up the phone, you had a resource like Maximum Rock and Roll's Book Your Own Life, or these handy, I still have this list for some reason. But anyways, I'm not that much of a pack rat, sort of. And you just call people and send tapes. And like the first tour, there's $400 phone bills every month for 3 months. You didn't know what you were getting yourself into, really. There's Phoebe, our van. It was 40% Mondo, I think. And we just hopped in and went. And figured out what would happen later. Like, without the Yelp review of the electric banana, we wouldn't have known that previously, a few years back, the owner of the electric banana refused to pay the circle jerks and threatened them with a gun. We didn't get threatened with a gun, but anyways, we got to play that legendary shithole. You know, you're on tour and they're like, yeah, you can stay at our house. This is our friend Todd from a band, Prozac Memory. And sometimes you're just like, nah. He slept on the top of the van because there were way too many bugs in that house. Funny story. We were leaving. We were playing a show in Toronto. We're going back through Detroit, and we're in on the interstate, and we look next door and we see the Millions, right? And we're just all dirty and gross and sweaty, and then they're in this like posh little van, and they're coming from recording, and they're like, hey, let's say hi on the other side. And we got stopped for like an hour. They like took all our gear out, and they're sure that there's piles of cocaine hidden in our amps, and they're I think they were arguing with Ed Rich's brother, who was a roadie, who was like, you could be a Japanese exchange student. You know, why don't you have a visa or what? They like tour diary. This was pretty good. You know, the first West Coast tour was not great. The shows got canceled. You know, Albuquerque and San Diego are canceled, and LA is sketchy. We don't have a lot of food. But when we did have food, we were hobos, all right? We were punk rock hobos, and we had a Coleman stove. And this is in Chicago, and we made spaghetti in public parks. Living the dream. Sometimes we went to Denny's. But this may sort of sound pathetic and sad and terrible, but it was so good. It was a lot of fun. The next tours got better and better, and we often played great shows in New York and DC and Seattle, and the hard work paid off. Our first tour on the East Coast was terrible, but we played on WMBR, MIT's radio station, and the recording was good enough that we thought, hey, let's put out a 7-inch with these 4 songs. So we did that. And then as Sideshow was playing around regionally, we played in Kansas City a lot. So Germbox and Molly McGuire were 2 bands from Kansas City that I helped get their records distributed. And then I think it's the 5th Caulfield record was a compilation 7-inch with those bands, the great early roster. 1993, we entered the compact disc era, which is very exciting. Eggplants and Sunspots, and again toured through that. We also pressed 12-inch records. Had at it. It was good stuff. I just want to wait. Urethra, Frank. I just want to say that out loud.
Was Frank Markle in that?
Yes, yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then more 7-inches at the time. A lot of times, it was a partnership between sort of me as Caulfield and the bands who were going to put out a record anyway. And I liked their music. I couldn't fund the whole thing, so they actually pressed and produced it, threw the Caulfield name on it, and I sent it through the distribution channels, and kind of that's how Caulfield spun up. Mercy Rule. From the ashes of 13 Nightmares came Mercy Rule, who were hugely influential for me, and incredibly charming and loud and wonderful. So I've got some photos that haven't seen the light of day here. And we put out God Protects Fools. We also, I had a great time working with Mercy Rule and doing like these fashion shoots and press photos and stuff like that. It was so much fun. We're doing crazy, like John would always be, okay, here's the deal. We're all gonna sit in front of the car and you'll do these Polaroids and yeah, let's do it. So that creativity was totally infectious and wonderful. And local music at the time was hopping. I love that. And then it got weird, right? A grunge, punk broke, and you found Ron Albertson on the cover of a magazine in his underwear.
It was the underwear issue.
It was the underwear issue, but. And then the community at the time was great. I found this clipping of a bunch of bands did a benefit show for Dave Raby's wedding. And so it was all like 20-minute sets, $5, let's get out there and do it. And then John and Heidi's anniversary show was always good. They'd make cake and play at Duffy's. Lots of stuff. So I found myself having a small business, which was not the original intent, but I was going with it, and running a record label at the time was it was fun, but there were aspects of it which were a pain in the ass. Like dealing with distributors. I don't know why I still have this, but this was a fax that I sent to Dutch East. First you had to like beg them to take your records, and then beg them to actually try to sell this. It was like, basically, please sell 50, was it, this fancy, maybe it was 75. I thought it was 15. Anyways, Mercy Rule's blowing up. Like, can't you sell some records? They're in Ray Gun and Rolling Stone and all this other stuff. And then it was a pain in the ass to get a check at the end. So it was hurtful all the way around. Later on, there was a company called Lumberjack Distribution, which took on Caulfield exclusively, and then that meant that they would always pay me every month for records, and I wouldn't have to worry about hassling distributors.
Nice email.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, right? Jane McGinn, I stole my mom's email address. It was like 93 or 94, actually. Even better. This was an ad. CompuServe, yo. And so this was another funny, this was an ad that ran in Punk Planet, or Maximum Rock and Roll. And I remember the next ad I had called, maybe I got a call from Tim at Maximum Rock and Roll. He's basically said, we won't take your ads anymore, you're not punk enough. Wow. And I'm like, okay. It's fine with me. Where the hell are we with time? Doing okay. Fashionable. So in 1995 was the music scene was thriving. Sideshow, actually, there were four records that I wanted to put out. One was the next Sideshow record. One was a Christie Front Drive record, Giant's Chair, and Opium Tailor. I didn't have enough money to put them all out, which was a problem. But a record label called Fly Daddy Records, who came to, they were friends of friends of friends. They had worked at Sub Pop, they were doing a label full time, and we just said, hey, let's, they paid for this record. And we thought that it would be a great idea or an opportunity to like get more distribution and visibility and stuff. I think it worked out pretty well. I kind of wish this was just a pure Caulfield gig though, in hindsight. We did fashion shoots and played a lot. Giant's Chair was a band from Kansas City, and they were super inspiring. One of the best drummers I've ever seen, and particular attention to detail to their packaging. This was all Braille on the CD cover. This was a cutout, like really specific, elaborate cutouts and letterpress stuff. Opium Tailor from Lincoln were another wonderful band. Frontier Trust, of course. Gary, like, watching Gary Dean Davis like do this like farmer pump dance thing. I hope there's video on YouTube of it because it's beautiful. And Christie Front Drive, they were a band from Denver. Sideshow played in Denver quite a bit, and got to know them. They were just sounded different from anything I'd ever really heard, and was really kind of entranced with it. They were kind of emo. And so all their stuff was out on vinyl. The guy who put out all the records was like morally opposed to CDs. Like it was, I don't know. So I said, hey, let's compile all the vinyl and put it on CD and put it out. And we did. That was good. And they were road warriors as well. Wow. This is kind of funny. This was the second Christie Front Drive record, and they actually wanted to call it Christie Front Drive 2 Electric Boogaloo. And I think this is where I had to be the responsible adult. Maybe it would have been better if it would have been called this. But I actually said, guys, maybe not. For better or worse. And then one of the, I don't have a flyer of it, but I think it was 95, there was all of these bands that were active at the time were in Lincoln at the same time, and we had the Caulfield Records Super Fest over on above the FOE Eagles Hall. Is that what it was?
Yep.
And it was just such an inspiration to have everybody play one show. So it's Frontier Trust, Mercy Rule, Opium Taylor, Christie Front Drive, Giants Chair, and Sideshow, and it was good stuff. But then everybody broke up, right? Yeah, over time, there's Frontier Trust breaks up, Christie Front Drive breaks up, Giants Chair, Opium Taylor, Broken Hearts Are Blue. Actually, I knew that they were breaking up, but I loved their record and put it out anyway. I just had to do that. And then Sideshow, this is the last Sideshow, official Sideshow show back in the 90s. We never broke up, but we just never called each other to get back to practice again. But it was all good. The internet was started to happen, and the first time I saw the web, I was like, how do I get Caulfield on the internet and stream music and stuff? And so I was always looking for ways to get the word out, do mail order, mailing lists and stuff. But one of the things that I love about it was this thing that we call the blabber board. And what it was actually a guest book script. Do you remember these things where it's like, hi, I'm from Gainesville, Florida, neat site, right? This 20 years ago, I guess it's okay. And what I thought would be fun was to take this and order it in reverse chronological order, so the newest post was always at the top, and people could leave the status updates and read it in kind of a news feed format. If I had been looking for like the next $1 billion media idea at the time, I might be giving a different talk now. But you know, it was like sharing an onion link, right? Like things haven't changed all that much, right? Or I think we're talking about who's better, the Who or the Kinks, or anyways, Mercy Rule went on their adventure with Relativity Records, had a record that was due to go out in MCA Records, and for a variety of reasons didn't happen. So Caulfield stepped up and got this record out to the world, which was great. And I got to do more fashion shoots with these guys, which was beautiful. They were road warriors as well, and John just doing his job. Yeah, something needed to be fixed, maybe? So in the sort of second era of Caulfield Records, Eric the Red, which was Rich's band, Luck of Aaliyah, which was my band, Her Flyaway Manor, of course, Troluma and MIGA. Luck of Aaliyah was a blast. We toured once, we put out a 10-inch record. had a great time. We were very patriotic. Triluma was a band in Chicago. This guy, Kevin Frank, he was in a lot of bands, kind of hardcore bands. I basically heard that he was in a new band. Sideshow was playing in Chicago at the time. I basically said, I'll put out your records. I don't care, just, I'll do it. Because I was just such a big fan, and they said yes. So, tragically, Jim, their bass player, he had cystic fibrosis and died in 1999, which was too bad. Certainly. Her Flyaway Manor. For every Fugazi, there's one Her Flyaway Manor. So they were inspiring and are still inspiring. This is last night. So they're still bringing the heat. And then in kind of the late era, I guess, it was sort of weird for me. Starting the record label to put out my band or my friends' bands, I kind of tried to do the record label thing, but like listening to demo tapes, and I was not as connected to them or inspired. Colia was a band from Boston. This is a Proud and Tall from Lawrence. There are a couple local bands for Flyaway Manor and Sun Rails and Lepers. But it was kind of at this time when the output of Caulfield Records was just kind of naturally slowing, and what to do, what to decide. The obvious answer is put a record out by Germbox that's 10 years old, really abrasive but awesome music. The band had broken up a dozen years ago, and it was sure to not make any money, but I was excited about it. So that's what I did. That was basically the last Caulfield record, and proud of it. So what? Why does any of this matter? Couple takeaways. The kids are all right. I stole this from the Here Nebraska Facebook idea, but the all ages thing was so important and so inspiring for me, and I hope that the support that Here Nebraska gave to let kids under 12 go see shows. The Bay is an awesome thing. I'm excited to go see Domestica tonight. Supporting that, getting kids on stage, and like that was life changing for me. Super important. Don't listen to John Dugan. There's always going to be someone telling you no. You guys know that, but fuck that guy. And just make your stage, whatever it is. If it's a food truck or a band or an art gallery or zine or a pirate radio station or whatever, just get up and do it. I've changed my life. I've benefited so much from it, and thanks.
There we go. That was great.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you.
What's that?
Thank you.
The significance of the name of the label?
Sure. I mean, Holden Caulfield, Catcher in the Rye. I was a senior in high school. It was like, that was yes, right? As any, I think we got chided a little bit for it later. It's like, God, Caulfield, Anyways, yeah, it was just, I don't know. Sounded good. It was a good name. It resonated, just that kind of cynical, kind of lost kid kind of thing. I identified with it. Yeah.
Do you regret cheating the phone company?
Do I regret? I didn't cheat the phone company.
You did.
Are you talking about dialers?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's my favorite thing I've ever.
I almost made a slide of it, but I actually didn't use the dial. It was the guys in The Boy's Life and some other bands.
I don't know.
Okay, so really briefly, there's this little device called a dialer back in the pre-internet era, and it was supposed to make it easy to dial phone numbers at a payphone. And it was this little device this size, and you hold it up to the speaker, is that what it's called?
Mouthpiece.
Mouthpiece, thank you. And it would go boop, 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 and it would speed dial, right, on a payphone. You could replace a little chip or a crystal in there, and instead what it would do, it would make this other noise that was, which was the sound that the phone company heard when you put in a quarter. So, what a lot of bands, I didn't have one, but they would be on the road and book tours, and they'd just go, you know, please enter, you know, drop in $5 and just, and they free phone. I sort of wish I did, because, you know. Yeah, cool. Thanks everybody. Oh yeah?
Was there anything you wished or that you wanted to do with Caulfield that you didn't get to, or looking back, you know, like an opportunity or anything like that?
That's a good question. Maybe to do more on the web. Like, I had websites really early on, but just didn't see the opportunity, I think, at the time. It was, all of that was done like in the moment. Like, we gotta put out a record, we gotta go on tour. It wasn't like the strategic landscape. The internet's changing things, and maybe we can like build a mail order or a store or a streaming service or what, like, wasn't thinking that big.
Sure.
Yeah, but I don't, no big regrets with it. I just feel really lucky that I got to be involved with my favorite music, with some of my favorite people. What's better?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.